Hi everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to take a look at one of the most intriguing subplots in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, namely the reckless romance of Lydia Bennet and George Wickham. Now I want to explore the complexities of Lydia's character, the possible real-life influences that inspired Jane Austen, and the motivations behind Wickham's advances. There have been several adaptations of the novel for television and film, as I spoke about in my previous video about Mary Bennet. Link up here if you've not seen it. In the 1940 MGM film, Anne Rutherford played Lydia. In the 1980 BBC adaptation, Lydia was played by Natalie Ogle, and in the 2005 movie we had Jenna Malone. But for my video, I'm going to be reflecting on Julia Sawalha's depiction of Lydia. Julia Sawalha's portrayal in the 1995 adaptation perfectly captures Lydia as the vibrant, carefree and often reckless 15-year-old.
Danny! Lydia!
She's the embodiment of youthful exuberance with an infectious energy that makes her both endearing and exasperating. Lydia's actions throughout the novel reflect her immaturity. She's driven by a desire for attention and excitement and with little regard for the consequences. Her obsession with officers, fashion and flirtation demonstrates her superficial understanding of the world.
I think a man looks nothing without regimentals.
But then she is only 15, right? Lydia is less concerned with love or deep emotional connections and more interested in the thrill of being noticed, especially by the dashing soldiers stationed in Meryton. To understand Lydia Bennet fully, we can consider her relationship with her sisters and her parents. Though Jane Austen doesn't delve deeply into these relationships, there's enough in the text and in scholarly interpretations to shed light on how Lydia fits into the Bennet family dynamic. Starting with Elizabeth, the contrast between them couldn't be more striking. Elizabeth often acts as a voice of reason, but Lydia's carefree nature leads her to dismiss her sister's concerns.
Wickham is not to marry Mary King after all. She's been taken away by her uncle to Liverpool and Wickham is safe.
Perhaps we should say Mary King is safe.
Don't look at me like that, Lizzie.
Elizabeth, though frustrated by Lydia's recklessness, still shows a deep protectiveness, especially when Lydia's actions threaten to bring disgrace upon the family.
If you were aware, Father, of the very great disadvantage to us all, which must arise from Lydia's unguarded and imprudent manner, I'm sure you would judge differently.
This protectiveness reflects Elizabeth's awareness of the social dangers that Lydia is too naive to recognise. Jane, the eldest and kindest sister, is gentle and forgiving of Lydia's flaws. Jane perhaps hopes Lydia will mature over time, but the novel suggests that Jane might be too forgiving, not fully grasping the potential consequences of Lydia's actions.
You meant, I suppose, that you and I, and Mary and Kitty, have been tainted by association.
Their interactions, while not extensively detailed, show a sibling bond tempered by Jane's innate kindness and Lydia's heedless youth.
Oh, Jane, I wish I could think so well of people as you do.
Then there's Mary, the serious and moralising sister. Lydia often mocks Mary's pious and sobriety, leaving a mutual disregard between the two. Mary's focus on self-improvement and morality starkly contrasts with Lydia's pursuit of pleasure and attention, leading to a strained relationship between them.
Oh, look at that hideous cloth. Would do very well for Mary, don't you think?
Lydia's closest relationship is, of course, with her sister Kitty, who is the closest in age and temperament. Kitty tends to follow Lydia's lead, adopting her interests and attitudes without much thought. However, this dynamic changes after Lydia's scandalous elopement, as Kitty begins to distance herself from Lydia's influence, showing that her character was staunted by Lydia's dominant personality. I'll be looking closely at Kitty's characterisation in another video. I do have some plans. Lydia's relationship with her parents further illuminate her character. Mrs. Bennet openly favours Lydia, indulging her whims and encouraging her flirtatious behaviour.
Oh, let her have it, Kitty, and be done.
But it's mine! You let her have everything that is mine!
Mrs. Bennet's lack of guidance and her obsession with marrying off her daughters contribute to Lydia's unchecked behaviour. On the other hand, Mr. Bennet's relationship with Lydia is marked by neglect. He finds her antics tiresome and chooses to disengage rather than discipline her, allowing her behaviour to spiral out of control. Now, his failure to provide proper guidance is a significant factor in Lydia's reckless actions. And we do remember that when Lydia has eloped and Kitty says she wouldn't go to Brighton, Mr. Bennet is almost like he switches over and turns his guiding parental duties. You go to Brighton, I shouldn't, what does he say? I shouldn't trust you as far as Eastbourne.
You go to Brighton? I wouldn't trust you as near it as Eastbourne.
But could there be more to Lydia's character? It's worth considering the external influences that may have inspired Jane Austen when creating Lydia's character. Elopements and the social consequences they entailed were not uncommon in Regency England, and Austen would have been well aware of the scandals that such behaviour could cause. Now, some scholars suggest that the character of Lydia might have been inspired by young women that Austen knew in her social circle. Austen was very close to her family, especially her nieces and nephews, and often commented on their behaviour in her letters. It is possible that Lydia's character was shaped by these observations, by the young, impressionable girls who were swept away by the romantic notion of the time, much like Lydia herself. The pressure on women of Lydia's age to secure a marriage, often at the cost of their own happiness and security, is a central theme in Austen's work. Now let's delve into George Wickham, the man who captures Lydia's attention and leads her down a dangerous path. Adrian Lucas's portrayal of Wickham in the 1995 adaptation perfectly captures his charm and duplicity.
And lend them much distinction, I dare say. Out-swagger us all, eh, Wickham?
Denny, you misrepresent me to these young ladies.
From the moment he's introduced, Wickham presents himself as the perfect gentleman, handsome, amiable, and seemingly wronged by Mr. Darcy. Wickham's charm, however, is merely a facade. Beneath his polished exterior lies a manipulative opportunist.
Did you go by the village of Kimpton?
I don't recollect that we...
Oh, I mention it because it was the living I should have had.
His early attempt to elope with Georgiana, driven purely by a desire for her fortune, reveals his true nature. Wickham is not interested in love or genuine affection. His relationships are motivated by self-interest and financial gain. Mr. Darcy, whom he blames for his lack of fortune. Now, this bitterness may not be the primary reason he pursues Lydia, but it certainly adds a layer of complexity to his motivations. By eloping with Lydia, Wickham not only indulges in his own desires, but also inadvertently strikes a blow against Darcy by bringing disgrace upon the family connected to Elizabeth Bennet, the woman Darcy loves. The pivotal moment comes when Lydia is invited to Brighton, a seaside town that was the height of fashionable Regency society. For Lydia, Brighton represents freedom, excitement, and the chance to fully indulge in her flirtations.
Oh, Mamma, I shall have to be bought new clothes, for I've nothing fit to wear and there'll be balls and parties every night.
Well, of course you shall have new things.
It's here that Wickham seizes his opportunity. Wickham's decision to elope with Lydia is calculated. He knows that she's young, impressionable, and eager for romance. For Lydia, this elopement is the ultimate adventure, a chance to live out the kind of romantic fantasy she's read about in novels. But for Wickham, it's a convenient escape from his financial troubles and a way to potentially secure a payout from the Bennet family or their connections. After their elopement, it's Darcy who steps in to resolve the situation, arranging for Wickham to marry Lydia and thus salvaging her reputation, albeit at a great personal cost to himself. Lydia, however, remains blissfully unaware of the true gravity of her actions, and she returns home as Mrs. Wickham with no sense of the near ruin she brought upon her family.
No, Jane. I take your place now. You must go lower, because I am a married woman.
Lydia's obliviousness to the scandal and the hardship she caused highlights her immaturity and the extent which she has been sheltered from the realities of her society. Even after her marriage, Lydia remains as carefree and self-centred as ever, showing little sign of growth or self-awareness. Lydia and Wickham move to Newcastle, where Wickham is stationed with his regiment. The novel makes it clear that their marriage is not built on mutual respect or affection. Instead, it's based on the impulsive actions of Lydia and the financial necessity of Wickham. Lydia's character does not show much growth by the end of the novel. She continues to be shallow, self-centred and oblivious to the consequences of her actions. In one of her letters to Elizabeth after her marriage, Lydia boasts about her status as a married woman, and even asks Elizabeth to ask Mr. Darcy for money on their behalf, demonstrating her lack of awareness and her continued immaturity. Wickham, on the other hand, remains a selfish and unscrupulous character. His marriage to Lydia doesn't reform him, and he continues to live irresponsibly, relying on Darcy's occasional financial support and his military position to get by. Jane Austen uses Lydia and Wickham's fate as a cautionary tale. Their marriage is presented as an example of what happens when a relationship is based on superficial attraction and impulsiveness rather than a genuine affection and compatibility. The novel suggests that Lydia and Wickham's future is unlikely to be happy or prosperous, while other characters like Elizabeth and Darcy grow and change throughout the novel. Lydia remains largely static, a representation of the consequences of unchecked behaviour and poor parental guidance. In summary then, by the end of Pride and Prejudice, Lydia's situation changes due to her marriage, but her character does not undergo any significant development. She remains the same thoughtless and frivolous girl, illustrating Austen's broader social critique. So that's it, another overview. Thank you for joining me on this look at Lydia Bennet's character and her ill-fated romance with George Wickham. If you enjoy this exploration, don't forget to take a look at this playlist, which contains all the videos I've put together so far on Pride and Prejudice. And I'm sure I'll be adding more to it too. And I've got things like on location, so location videos, and further overviews and observations of the 1995 adaptation. As I say, thanks for watching. Bye for now.